a bit of a different video. I'm graduating uni soon, and do you know what? I have no evidence of my improvement since joining uni and getting into 3D art. So I thought today I'm just going to take it back and sort of show what I've done, really. It's crazy to think now that 6 years ago I started college. That is disgusting. But yeah, it all started with joining college. I went to a course that did games, VR and VFX. My goal with this college was to develop my 2D art at the time. I really wanted to go into animation, so I thought this was like the perfect course to go into. Little did I know that on the games course I would have to learn 3D art, and I had never touched Blender in my life. The first year of college was great. They had a lot of modules that weren't to do with 3D. It was mostly like website design, talking about games. I got to do some concept art, which was quite cool. And then it happened. The 3D modules came out and I had to model my first ever things. I hated it. I hated this so much. In typical Blender fashion, I started with the donut and I got to, I think, the second part of the video before I got fed up and quit it. I literally went, here's my donut, cope with it. This is all you're gonna get from me because I don't like this software. I was a 3D hater. After making the donut, I had to make 4 more. So here they are. They're so good. We have a duck, if you could tell. All of these were me following tutorials because I had not a clue what I was doing when modeling these. I decided to go off the tutorials and thought I could model Toad because, you know, he's a very simple character and I feel like I had the capacity to at least attempt. And what is this? The module after that as well was 3D characters, which I was kind of excited for. I had hopes for myself. And then, yeah, it just went downhill again. Kind of gives off RuneScape, which is quite cool. I do really love the low poly look and things, so I achieved something there. I did some animation here, which I really enjoyed because obviously trying to be an animator and all at the time, I merged 2D assets with 3D in hopes that I can make some sort of scene. I hated modeling still, so the trees and that in the background is my friend's models. I was like, please let me have them. I don't want to build my own scene. I did model the mannequin though, but I needed help texturing him. Near the end of this course, our final project was to get into groups and develop our first ever game. We had some prep leading up to this. This was like the first time of using all of our knowledge and combining it into like a final product. I decided to team up with my mate for this, and from there we did some brainstorming, got some ideas, and decided to create our first ever game, which was Tooth Rune. Tooth Rune to this day is me and my mate's favourite project I think we've ever done together. We really want to redevelop this, but it's such a big game. See, this is where opposites attract. Daniel was getting really into 3D art around this time, and he was loving creating like environmental assets as well as characters, and I obviously was still a 2D diehard fan. We decided to merge it together and create like a 2.5D game within Unreal Engine. We just thought this would merge both of our skills together in a way that like we won't clash, because I'm like not raging over 3D software. But yeah, we did it. We made a cool prototype. Here's some footage here of the gameplay. It was really cool to make. I also taught me a lot about Unreal Engine. I decided to try the software out myself as well. Not like entirely the code side, but more of the UI design and the foliage and kind of like the technical art side. Like, it wasn't a lot that I put into this project, but it was fun to get to know the software. And this was my first ever time really trying Unreal Engine and going into game engines and into game development. After developing our little prototype, I kind of changed my perspective on Blender and I wanted to try 3D art again. Yeah, I tried another tutorial and I made this well. I was so proud of it. This was like the peak of my 3D quote-unquote career, you know. I think from there I had a bit too much confidence and decided to create a character after that and no, hated Blender again. I never wanted to touch it. I got so angry. I made a time-lapse. I tried to be all cute and make like a time-lapse of me creating this character, but this video is literally just me opening different screens on Blender because I can't figure out how to split the screen in half, and I was raging. After a couple of years, college obviously ended and I was so happy because this meant I can finally delete Blender and try 2D animation. From there, I joined a university in Wales and decided to do 2D animation. And now this is where the hate-love relationship comes in. Because I knew I was doing animation, I wanted to try and shortcut things by making my environments 3D so I can trace over the background for my animations, which in theory, to do that, I'd have to re-download Blender. So I did. I re-downloaded Blender. I was like, let's start off with something simple, like a sword. A sword would be simple, right? No. After about a year, life happened and I decided to drop out of uni due to just severe burnout. I decided to look back into uni courses because I got really bored after a couple months and came across game art again. Since I did study games at college and I really loved that course, I thought let's try and give uni another go. I knew for a fact that this is my time to shine and finally learn Blender. I hated the software, as you know. But yeah, every time I quit, I was just so intrigued to open it up again and learn more. I knew that this course was gonna push 3D. I knew it. So I thought, screw it, I'm gonna force myself to learn this software and I have to know it because I'm paying for this. It's such a bad thing, but it worked. The first ever module at my uni course was to make four assets to do with a Western theme. I was really nervous, I can't lie, doing this. I didn't have much knowledge of Blender. It had been like a good year since I had got the software again, but I powered through. I tried out Adobe Substance Paint for the first ever time, which was also so fun. Also a software I hated because I couldn't understand anything when I first did it. And yeah, here was my first ever quote-unquote 3D environment, technically, with my own assets. My biggest weakness during this time was 3D characters. It was so bad. We had to make some models, like environmental assets, and then a character. I was proud of this at the time, and now looking back at it, she looks terrifying. We also had our first group project in year one, and instead of doing it in little groups, the whole class had to work together. I think it was like 22 people in one team. We made a horror airport, which was sick. I was at this time getting more confident within Blender as well as Unreal Engine, so I made these little assets here, which I was so proud of, including the forklift. I was getting more confident within Adobe Substance Painter as well, and from here, this is when I started posting content about my assets and grew a bit of my social media thanks to you guys. It's pretty much year one. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just learning Blender again, and I was just happy to be making progress. I wanted to be prepared for year two, so I decided to make a game prototype, and I had so much fun doing this. It kind of clicked there when I was midway through production that I wanted to complete and publish a game in the future, and I want to go down the game industry rather than the art industry. This also gave me a goal of where I wanted to go into the 3D art world. I preferred creating the 3D environments using Blender and Unreal workflow rather than the character art side of things. Year two was probably my most fun year, I want to say. One of the modules was art-based practice, where we could pick anything we want to research into and study. I did hand-painted textures and decided to create a 3D environment, my first ever sort of independent one, where all of the textures were hand-painted. I absolutely loved this environment, and I wish I added more to it if I had time, but this is one of my favorite pieces I've ever done, and this sort of showed how far I've actually come with 3D art. I also got to redeem myself this year by creating another character, and this time I locked in. My mate Darnell does 3D characters, and he's actually a goat. He helped me sculpt this character here. We were on Discord, and he was giving me some tips about anatomy and how to use ZBrush, and you know what? Massive improvement to what I had in year one. All of the things I had been learning in year one outside of uni was now coming into play, and I was sort of becoming more confident with it. We also had another group project. I'm not going to go into this. I hated it, but I got to experiment with Unreal more, and because I had made a little prototype in the summer, I helped out with a bit of code again, as well as creating a PlayStation 2 style shader, which some people love every single time I show them. Also got to experiment with low poly, which was sick, and I made some assets again for that. And now we go on to year 3. We had another module where we could practice whatever we wanted to research into. This time I wanted to go on Unreal rather than Blender. I wanted to learn procedural generation. There is also another video of my behind the scenes of this environment, but I decided to create like a windmill, and I wanted to sort of see how much I had learned within Unreal and how much I can like showcase that basically for my portfolio. And now I'm on the really boring portfolio / dissertation side of uni. It's not fun. I'm trying to just develop Ruin and get my degree and get out of here. I think the best thing about this video is that I really had a enemies to lovers arc with Blender, and now I absolutely love it. I feel like I fixed my marriage with it. We're happier now, we're glowing, we're thriving. I also want to say that animation is still something I want to come back to. I still love 2D art as well. It's just, it feels like more energy to create 2D art than it does 3D at the moment, and I'm kind of just enjoying learning new workflows. I've done 2D for years now, and it's nice just to do something different. As I said, bit of a different video, but I hope you enjoyed seeing my progress and how much I hated the software to the point where I loved it, and it's now what I am aiming to do as a job today, which is insane. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this one. It was really fun to create, and thank you so much for the recent support on my reels and TikTok. Yeah, stay updated, and I'll see you later.